Anything else you want to include, Scott, in your description?
No, Scott, Scott, thank you so much. I'm happy
Okay.
to take it away whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. I think you should be able to share your screen. Let us know if you have a problem with that.
Yeah, let me do that right now. I gotta go into presenter mode here, so hold on. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for the Uniform Chicago topic on WordPress. As you guys know, I've come to this group a few times. I love it. I love to participate in this group, and I wanted to share some WordPress tips and tricks tonight. Hey, look, this is a conversation. I feel like I know all of you, a lot of you. I see a lot of familiar faces. So if you guys have particular or specific WordPress questions, or you're new to WordPress, or just if you want to pop in the chat what you're kind of looking for, feel free. I have a little bit of a presentation put together, but I'm also happy to kind of take this as an opportunity to kind of just talk about what WordPress is or what I do for a specific thing and kind of share ideas on what we can do better. So feel free to do that. I'm definitely happy to keep an eye on the chat and go from there. Uh, yep. So a couple things. One, before we get too deep into this, don't forget, it doesn't hurt to throw some headphones on if you got them and turn off any programs in the background that might be hogging up your internet space. Zoom's pretty good about optimizing that, but just some thoughts before we get too deep into this to improve your experience. And then also, if you're not speaking, if you could mute your mic or just be mindful of your mic, that way we can have a nice, great experience. Thank you. Okay, a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. Objectives. Number one, what is WordPress? For those of you who are kind of learning about WordPress, welcome. I love talking about it. I love sharing it. I've been using it for a long time, and I'm happy to kind of give you some details on what WordPress is. The second part, we're going to talk about some WordPress site examples, and the third is we're going to talk about going farther with some like theme options based on where you want to go, and that's really I think where this presentation is going to be unique is we'll get lots of feedback on what type of themes are good and bad and the ugly, right? So why WordPress? First things first, WordPress is very powerful software that's used by approximately 35% of all websites worldwide. So if you think of how big the internet is, 35% of the web, actually I think it's almost 40% now, 40% of the web is powered by WordPress. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that is. Another reason why you might want to use WordPress is a content management system. It's software essentially that runs your website. It's like the tool that builds websites. You can use it to build it started as a blogging platform, but today it's most notably known as what we would call a content management system that you use to manage the pages and posts and all the stuff in your website that you would want to publish content. Also, it's popular because of its theming. You can add content into your WordPress website, and then you can use a WordPress theme to design, style, do all kinds of stuff. And of course, there are a lot of different areas and themes. But at the end of the day, what's awesome about WordPress is that you can add, let's just say you have 500 blog posts or you have 5 blog posts, doesn't really matter. Let's just say you have 500 blog posts. And then you decide down the road that you want to change the look and feel of your website. Well, the idea with a content management system is that you can actually take a theme, change it, and that way your content will always be there, but your theme and look and feel will change. That's the beauty about putting all your content into a WordPress management system or into a content management system like WordPress, because you don't have to worry about moving all that content or migrating all that content over should you ever want to change the style or design of your website. Now, if you want to change your content management system, well, then that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, WordPress it's been around for a long time and it's likely to be around for a long time. So we hope that you won't ever have to move your content again. Another thing that I love about WordPress is open source, and it has a really strong community of developers, programmers, and content creators like you and me, or wherever you sit in that category, to help get advice and ultimately profit from WordPress. WordPress, believe it or not, is free software, and its only really value comes from the people that contribute to it and the people who use it to build and sell websites. So WordPress alone is not typically like other software. I'm sure this group would understand kind of the concept of open source. but a lot of us are familiar with programs like Microsoft Word and Microsoft and Adobe Photoshop and stuff like that. Those are all proprietary programs that are owned by a corporation that profits from our subscriptions or our usage. WordPress is open source. It's owned by the community of people who benefit from it, and the code base is open, so anyone can use it, and it's actually free to use WordPress. Now, there are some caveats to that, which I'm going to share in a minute. But at the end of the day, the core content management system, or CMS software, that I have mentioned is free, which is great. A couple of benefits of using WordPress. The good is that it's widely supported. It's really kind of easy to find people who work with WordPress. I mean, I'm one of many, but ultimately you can find people online. You can find people in the local area. You can find a lot of people who use WordPress, which is awesome. It's open source, as I mentioned, meaning the entire code base is open, so you can build on top of it, build alongside it. You can even duplicate it and call it Scott Press if you want. There's not necessarily anything stopping you from doing that. Of course, you would have to support everything you duplicate, or find a community of people to support what you're building. But open source really allows the ability to do that. If you're into search engine optimization, and I know Nancy did an SEO presentation to this group a couple months ago, it was a fantastic presentation. And I think that most search engine optimization professionals prefer to use WordPress because of the sort of Swiss Army like skills that you can use to enhance and develop to your website. Not everyone, but most people, mainly because of the search engine optimization friendly plugins that you can use on your website to optimize your content, optimize your user experience, which makes it a great tool for SEO. Another thing that people like is that you kind of like, once you get into WordPress, you find like an approachable theme framework that you might like. I've used many themes over the years, like the Studio Press themes. I used Headway for a long time. I used the Divi theme today. I've used Elementor. We'll get into what those are in a little bit. But kind of there's like the bigger overall WordPress community, and then you kind of like find your way into a particular like sub community of theme users that you like. And there's lots of different themes, but the cool thing is that you can find people who have like skills, like interest, and ultimately can help you do more with the web. It helps you kind of create more. And finally, as I mentioned already, there's a community of help. Now let's talk about the bad, or the downside, or actually let me be a little bit more PR, like the challenges of WordPress. And you'll note that the challenges are all exactly the same, right? The good is also the bad in some ways. You know, the bad thing about WordPress is that it's widely supported. So if you want to sell WordPress services, man, there's a lot of competition out there. But that's good. That's good and bad too, right? I don't usually look at people as competition. I look at them as collaborators. But you never know. In terms of challenges, having an open source code base is great, but that does sometimes make you more vulnerable to hackers and to other people who might overall not necessarily like, they know the entire code base, therefore it's like it's easier to sort of hack, if you will, because you know like absolutely everything. So there's some challenges with having an open source code base. Swiss SEO, Swiss Army knife skills, yeah, I mean, like, same thing. There's a challenge to that because everyone does using the same SEO skills, right? It's sometimes it makes it harder. Also, sometimes some of these plugins, like, they just add bloat to your site, and that's good and bad. You kind of have to build a mindset to what actually works and what doesn't work. There's lots of different themes that you can use, and the truth is, like, once you kind of buy into a theme, you're kind of like, that's the theme that you typically use, and sometimes it also doesn't open up a lot of creativity. And finally, there's community for help, and this is a beautiful thing in my opinion, but it's also a negative. Sometimes when you need help, you just want to pick up the phone and call 800 help number, a help desk, right? There is really no help desk for WordPress in a lot of ways. You have to either call your host, you have to call a phone a friend, call up Scott right here, call me, or you have to essentially figure out what you're going to do or fix it yourself. I know this group is probably a lot of do-it-yourselfers or people who are experienced in this space, so it's likely you're going to kind of find time and do the Google to fix your problems and that kind of thing. So the cool thing about WordPress, and also the bad thing, is that there's not necessarily dedicated support, or when you got to find a problem, you got to search forums, you got to do all this, you got to do all that. So both the good and the bad are part of what WordPress makes WordPress awesome. I think is that, one, there's lots of opportunity, but two, it only comes if you're willing to put the time in and make it happen for yourself. Okay, so WordPress is what? Yeah, so let's give a little bit of a demo here. I wanted to share my screen. So first of all, this is one of my personal websites. This is just a website that I use to promote myself personally, but also I use it just as kind of a playground to mess around and do presentations like this. Basically, this is my WordPress site. It's a blog. It's also kind of a way to promote who I am, and it links off to my other websites. It's just my domain here, my URL, scottwinterroth.com. But the cool thing is that this is what people come to my website and see. This is like what we would call the front end or the front facing side of the website. But for me, if I type my URL in and I hit /WP for WordPress -admin, it's going to take me to a special dashboard. Now I'm already logged in. It's going to take me to a special dashboard where I'm going to have the ability to manage my website content. Now keep in mind, this is all on my own domain. This isn't like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace or even a company called WordPress.com where I'm buying a service to host my website. This is all hosted on my own servers or servers that I'm renting from through a hosting company. And the beauty of this is that I'm sort of like the CEO and I own the entire sort of ecosystem with this. WordPress is my software, but I'm powering it. I'm doing all the changes. I'm making all the configuration changes, that kind of thing. The bad news is I'm the one who's in charge of this. Something breaks, hey, I got to fix it. And that's okay. But WordPress as a content management system is really focused on these like sort of first 5 items here. Number 1, WordPress has the ability and has one of the best blogging systems built in where I can easily add a new blog post to add to my website. So if you're a content publisher or a content creator, this is what's called the default or the block editor, otherwise known as the Gutenberg editor. And this is where I can write a post. This is my title of my post. This is where I can add the content and use the new block tool to arrange content and to pick between what you would call modules within my WordPress platform, WordPress backend. And there's even really cool patterns now too, where you can select some patterns that maybe you want to use for your blog post. So you don't have to necessarily use the whole like square rectangle with text kind of thing like it used to be for a long time. Now with the block editor, there's a lot more configuration changes. And this is all built right into WordPress. This is native WordPress. When you install WordPress, this is the editor you're getting. This came out in the December of 2018, this block editor, the Gutenberg editor. And every month it's getting a little bit more powerful and a little bit more creative. So it's coming along. It's not quite where I want it to be. I use it. I don't use it as much as I'd like to, just because it's not quite there compared to some of the existing tools that are on the market today. But the WordPress team, the WordPress core team, is doing a lot to sort of incorporate cool tools like this where you can easily add blocks and modules. Let's say I want to add an image. I can add an image and it will let me select the image from either my computer, or it will let's say I want to upload this little image here. Oh, it's too big. I have to use a different one. Let me just go to the media library. Let's say I want to add an image. I don't know, add this little logo here. I can add it to my post and it will easily add it into my site, which is, this is cool. This is all native WordPress. Now, another thing is that there's other types of content within WordPress. There is also pages, right? Pages and posts. Pages are your static pages. This is like your about, your your services like coaching or landing pages, events, that kind of thing. And then posts are your blog posts, that kind of thing. WordPress also does a lot of cool like organizing of your media. So whenever I upload images and stuff like that to my website, it automatically organizes it into a media library. And it generates the right URLs and like the right links to make sure that all my content is organized and efficiently and easy to use. And I can optimize it for search engine optimization, that kind of stuff. Like, this is core WordPress. This is really the beauty of what WordPress provides us as a free service. Now, the other aspect of WordPress is this appearance, like the themes. So the themes and plugins are like the administrative tools that we use that we can easily skin our website. You can see right here, I'm using a divi theme. I can easily switch over to this theme right here, 2020, which is one of the default themes. I don't really want to do that. I could easily switch back and forth. I sometimes do this as a demo, but I don't really want to do it right now because I don't want to have to, once you deactivate and reactivate, there's usually some things you have to reconfigure. And I don't want to really go through that process right now. But there's the appearance, there's plugins. Like, I have a whole bunch of plugins on my site that optimize the experience, from anti-spam tools to a plugin that helps with web accessibility, or people who are, different types of web WCAG guidelines, that kind of thing. Gravity Forms, which is a really cool plugin that I love. Gravity Forms is awesome because I can create contact forms that integrate with like all kinds of services. So for example, let's just say someone uses this contact form Gravity Forms has a tool like through Zapier where I can automatically send contact form submissions to my CRM or my customer relationship manager, right? Or I can have it send me a text message or something like that. So Gravity Forms is a really cool plugin that I can create all kinds of contact forms that are automatically integrated with that easily integrate with other plugins and services around the web. Let's see here. So this is really kind of the heart of what WordPress is. There's just an event calendar, like I have an events calendar on my website. This lets me easily create a new post type called events, right? A new custom post type called events. And that way I can go into the events tab and I can add new events. I didn't add this event, sorry guys. I should have added it to my site, but I could have added every time that I have a little speaking gig or something like that, I can add it to my website. And this is what's cool, is that there are just tons of tools and resources that already exist. I don't have to build an events calendar every single time I want to build a website. I can just use this plugin and it's there. And the cool thing is once you start using WordPress for a period of time, you start to build this sort of knowledge toolbox where you know this plugin does this plugin does that, and it's easily, and this theme is good at this. So it's easy to sort of grab from your knowledge toolbox when you have a particular project you're trying to build, or you have a particular client you need to fulfill, right? So a client need that you need to fulfill. So this is sort of the beauty of WordPress. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of WordPress. We'll get into installing it in a second, but before we do that, I want to talk about the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. If you are not familiar, I want you to know right now that there are two types of WordPress. There's WordPress.com and there's what we call WordPress, or AKA WordPress.org. Now, if you go to WordPress.com, you're going to see this website and it's going to look inviting to you. And I love WordPress.com. I've got nothing against WordPress.com, but WordPress.com is a hosted service of WordPress. This is very much like using a Squarespace or a Wix or something like that. You're going to pay them to host your products, and likely when you start, you could start off with something free that's like scottsblog.wordpress.com. Like this is kind of like the core WordPress.com software. And this is an old example, but basically, they're gonna insert ads and they're gonna do all kinds of it's not really free, right? Yes, it doesn't cost you any money to set it up, but fast, easy, and free isn't always the right way to go. If you want to build your own website, you want to have full control and you want to be able to use all the plugins and services like that I'm using to build sort of these online properties that I manage, then you want to use what's called WordPress.org. And if you go on WordPress.com and you scroll all the way to the bottom, they don't really mention it because they don't make money off of WordPress.org per se. Indirectly, they don't make money off of WordPress.org. On WordPress.com, they have a free or a personal plan all the way up to an e-commerce plan that is going to cost you a hefty. If you want to do any type of online business, or you have a business site where you have a lot more needs, then you're going to have to upgrade to a business site. Also, if you want to use your own, like any theme or any plugin that you want to use through the WordPress directory, you have to have one of these plans. It doesn't come with the basic or free plans. So if you go all the way to the bottom and you click WordPress.org, this is the software that I use. And what WordPress.org is, they let us take the software they use to run WordPress.com. Basically, they let us take this software, but because it's open source, we can install it on our own servers and run it ourselves, essentially. So that's really what they're doing. It lets us download tools that we can use to set up our own WordPress website. And the best thing about WordPress is that since it's been along for a long time, you used to have to go to this website, download the software, and install it through you upload it, you create a database and a MySQL database, and you do all that kind of stuff. You can still do it the manual way if you want, but the best thing is that most web hosts like Bluehost, DreamHost, GoDaddy, Namecheap, all these web hosts, they all basically provide a one-click installer these days for WordPress. So if you have your own domain name, you want to get into the open source or the self-hosted WordPress sites like I have, then I recommend checking out any hosting company you want, but I'm going to show you an example for mine here. So I have wordspaces.com, which is my hosting company. I do hosting as a service. But if you log it, most hosting companies have what's called cPanel. They use the cPanel tool. Some of them are getting away from cPanel. SiteGround doesn't use cPanel anymore. I don't know about Bluehost or HostGator. I haven't used them in a while. There's tons of hosting companies. You can ask 10 people and get 10 different recommendations. So I'm not here to tell you which hosting company to use, but ultimately most hosting companies work off of what's called this cPanel. or control panel. And this control panel is where you sort of do your web admin, web access, right? This is where you set up your emails. This is where you set up your DNS or domain name configurations. This is where you can set up your databases, like your MySQL databases and that kind of thing. But most importantly, if you scroll down, a lot of them have what's called a WordPress manager or a WordPress installer. So basically, if you want to install WordPress, the best thing is to make sure your web hosting company has a one-click installer or an installer program like Softalicious. And you click this, and it lets you configure your WordPress installation, what version, what URL, the name of your blog, the username for your website, which is like what I use to log into my site, and your admin email, all that kind of stuff. And once you do all that, you click install. It usually takes 3 to 5 minutes, if that, usually a minute. And then all of a sudden, then you have WordPress installed. You get a nice little email that says, hey, your WordPress site is installed. And then once you have that, you can log into your dashboard and start to create and manage your content. So that's one of the easiest ways to get into WordPress, is to find a web hosting company that has a one-click installer or a hosting company that can help you through the process. And that will get you into a self-hosted WordPress site. Now, once you have a website, then you're going to have to kind of look at building out a theme, right? Getting into a theme. And this is really where things kind of start to get very not complicated, but you're going to have to figure out what do you want to do. Now, by default, WordPress comes with, one more example. I've used it before. WordPress.com versus WordPress.org. I love WordPress.com. It's great if you're kind of just getting your feet wet. You just have a really simple website. It's kind of like the baby blocks of the industry. WordPress.org is like the architecture set here. You can do a lot cooler stuff if you want to take the time to invest into learning how to do it. So just I like to use this analogy. Hopefully Lego doesn't come after me for doing this, but ultimately that. And then finally, I want to talk about some free theme frameworks. The beauty is that, as I mentioned already, WordPress has the block editor built in. And if you use, for example, the what's called the showcase themes, you can just dive right in. There's no really cost to it. So as long as you have a domain name and a hosting company that can run usually anywhere from around $60 to $100 a year, you can start with one of these themes, and that will be that's where you can go. You can just use one of the showcase themes. 2021 is the current one. Let's see, 2021 WordPress theme. I thought I had it on my site. I guess not. 2021 is the current theme, and it basically lets you use the block editor to its full glory. Let's see here. I have a example of it here. Just bear with me. Okay, so I can go. I use what's called network mode. It's a little different than the standard WordPress, but basically it lets you create multiple WordPress sites within one network install, which makes it nice, but it also makes it a little more advanced configuration. So, for example, here is a basic website, and with the Gutenberg editor, you can create a page. So we'll do add new page. So new page, and this is still what you call a WYSIWYG editor. So it's what you see is what you get. And with this, you can, as I was showing you guys before, you can pick the types of blocks that I want to use, right? And then every time I add a new block, it gives me a little plus icon. Or every time I hit enter, it gives me the plus icon. I can create columns. I can select what kind of columns I want. We'll do a 3-column. I can add an image here. Let's see. And it gives me options here to the left, like how I want to style the image. Let's see. Media library. See if I have anything in the media library. Oh, there's a picture here. We'll use this one. In the media library, I can add some text here or a heading. Headings, like this is headings usually have a lot higher sort of priority text or a quote. And I keep going, and I can use this to design my page. Once I hit publish, it's going to generate the URL right here, and I can hit view page. And this is what the default 2021 looks like. As you can see, it's great, but ultimately it's just a blank template to use. So This is why working with sometimes a theme is helpful, because if you work with a theme, it gives you much more sort of a base to start with. And there's lots of sources for themes. Now, one of the common sources for themes is a site called Theme Forest, and it's in my way here, themeforest.net. So here you can go and you can browse 50,000 WordPress themes. There's tons of them, and you can pick one that you like. They usually cost anywhere from 40 to 200 bucks, kind of thing. And let's just go to WordPress. We can go to creative, whatever that means, right? So you can pick a creative theme. Unicode's a popular one. You can pick Unicode, and if you do like a live preview, it gives you a little bit more of a they give you a little bit more of a something to work with, right? Which is nice, because obviously the 2021 is free, but sometimes it's nice to work with a theme like this, because all I need to do is swap out the content with my own. Like, all the design and all the look and feel and the user experience is already done. So as long as my content fits within this theme, I can just swap out the content and then I'm done. Which is nice. It makes it a lot easier sometimes. So for 60 bucks, I get this, the design is done. All I gotta do is swap out my own content. That's one option, using a framework like this, or using a pre-done theme. Another option is using sort of there's like page builders. Page builders are really popular right now. So you could use the demo. You could use the built-in sort of Gutenberg block editor that exists, but there's also a couple other popular ones. One popular one is called the Elementor editor. And Elementor is a cool tool. I've used it before. It's not the one, I don't have the Elementor Pro usually, so it's not the one I use all the time. I think it's a fine editor, but basically this is a site that I was helping somebody with, so I can't do too much in here. But ultimately, if I want to add a new page, I click add new, and with Elementor, first of all, you have the option to use the default block editor. But with Elementor, I can click on edit with Elementor, and it's going to give me a page. I can add my page title here. Oh, there it goes. It's loading the editor. So again, this is kind of like, you have your theme. There's a theme on the site, but Elementor is a plugin, right? So Elementor respects the theme that's on the site, but then with the plugin, you can start to add your own content. Like, I might have a page title. It's a little weird how the site, I didn't actually set up the site originally, so I can't take any blame or credit for that. But basically, you can add your page title up here, and then there's other modules within Elementor that you can use. Again, I want to add a video. Let's say I want to add a video, or I want to add columns. I can go ahead and add all the types of, I can organize and build my pages visually, which is kind of helpful. A lot of people like that. So here's Elementor. You can add a page break, all that kind of stuff. There's probably 50 or 60 different modules in here. This is Elementor Pro, by the way. There's Elementor for free. You can use the Elementor plugin for free, but of course, anything that you need is in the Elementor space. One thing I don't like about Elementor, and this is maybe from my understanding, Elementor is not GPL. So, and GPL is general public license. So they're not in no way contributing to the open source community. They're all doing it under proprietary, which is both good and bad, I guess you could say. It depends how you look at it, but Elementor is not GPL. And that's something I like to support, open source software. So although it's cool, it also is limiting, because it's not necessarily contributing back to the community in some ways. It's a useful tool, but it's maybe not contributing in a way that is in line with sort of the GPL or open source sort of nature of WordPress. And then there's one more theme that I like, which we can get into deeper in any of these. If you guys like, just let me know. But there's one more theme that I like, and it's called the divi theme. And the divi theme is what I use on most of my websites, mainly because I have a lifetime developer license that I bought several years ago. So it's just kind of become my go-to theme. But I use the divi theme. You can check out this site right here, this contact page. If I go to edit page, it says edit this layout with divi. Click that. And then divi is a visual builder. So I'm literally building all of my designs directly on the home page. So and everything is divided into sections, rows. Like, I can do the same type of thing that the Gutenberg editor has and Elementor, where I can change the rows. and then the gray area indicates it as modules. So let's say this is a blurb module. So let's say get in touch, and I could have my own content. I could maybe add a photo here. Let's say this is my contact page, so maybe it makes sense to have a picture of me. I don't know. So just playing around here. Picture of me, get in touch, and I could have a little paragraph here, and I can style this all up. If I click on these in this module, there's the content tab, which is everything that you would have. I can change the background for this particular module. Say I want to have a gradient module, a gradient or something like that. I can easily change these to be kind of different colors. Maybe I'll do the white. I don't know. Just messing with this. I can do a gradient background. There's a background on all of these pages. Like I can do a background here too if I don't want it to be on just the module. You guys can kind of see it in the background here. And then I can also go to the design tab and I can change all of the different module settings, all the text settings. Let's say I want the text to be right justified, right? You can see our block justified or right justified. I could do all that here. I can add a shadow. I mean, I could really mess this up if I want, kind of thing. So basically, all the text settings, I can even add animations, like a slide in, that kind of thing. And that's why, you know, as I mentioned before, that the Gutenberg editor or the block editor inside of WordPress is a pretty fantastic free tool, considering how far it's come since December of 2018. But Elementor and Divi have been on the market now for years, and they really have kind of gotten really advanced with the things they provide, especially in a no-code way. If you're in a no-code development, you don't want to spend a lot of time doing your own coding and that kind of thing. These page builders, although they have their downsides, some of the advantages to them is that you have everything is a one-click or a two-click type thing. Like if you want to do a weird positioning, you can easily do that. Whereas that would take a lot of hand coding and stuff like that in the past. And even if you do know code, it's not that you know, it just makes it much easier. It's like working with a user, it's like using a user interface versus trying to do the whole code and that kind of thing. Now, the downsides with using a page builder like Divi or Elementor, for that matter, there's other ones too, like Beaver Builder, Ocean WP. There's a whole bunch of these sort of builders. Is that the bad thing is that they sort of break a little bit of the conventions of WordPress. So if I were to deactivate this theme and put something else in, a lot of times all this stuff inside of these text boxes is like code that Divi is using. So the bad thing is that if I go use a different theme, there's going to be a lot of issues with the code. That's why when I build blog posts, I typically use the default editor with blog posts, because if you have 500 blog posts, let's just say you don't want to have to change every single post. Let's see what I do here on this one. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Yeah, see this post here, I just use the default editor, because that way if I want to change this site or I want to change the theme on the site, I only have to worry about the pages that I edited in Divi. Now, that could change in the future. It seems like this is kind of the world that we're living in, so hopefully in the future that won't be a problem. Also, Divi does come with a plugin. So if I did use a different theme, I could just install the Divi plugin and then use the theme for that new site. But there are some bad things about using a development, sort of a plugin like this, or a theme like Divi or Elementor or any of them. That's why WordPress is getting more into the page builder space, so they can take back that content editing experience. Now let's talk about cost for a minute. Cost is always also an important thing as well. We talked about the Divi, the default editor. It's free. As I said, it's free. It's part of WordPress. So you may want to purchase some additional blocks or additional add-ons like the atomic blocks or something like that. You can use or purchase. But this is free. Elementor has a free plugin, which is available in the WordPress plugin repository. Go to wordpress.org, go to plugins, and just type in Elementor. Elementor website builder right here. It's really popular. It's a free plugin. Of course, there's a free usually means upgrade, right? So if you're going to use this, you only can use so much for free, and then they're going to want you to upgrade. Divi is not they don't have a free anything, but if you go to elegantthemes.com, if you go to Elegant Themes, this is where the Divi information is. I hate to use this analogy, especially with this group, because I know you guys are all kind of computer techies like me, but Divi is like the Macintosh, where Elementor is like the PC. There's like, it's just, if you like to really dig in and kink and deal with bugs and kinks, stuff like that, you may like the Elementor theme. Like this is like not very, to me, this user experience is not very clean. It's not very nice. The Divi experience is way better. It's more like it's some would say it's more like a Macintosh. It's cleaner. It's well designed. It's well maintained. It's just a much there's a lot more attention to detail with how this theme was built, which to me, I'm impressed in the amount of attention to detail that they put into this particular theme that they use. Now, it's not free. Pricing starts at $89 a year, or you can purchase a one-time lifetime access for $249. So it's actually way more affordable. Elementor is actually just recently going through some pricing changes, which I think I just paid $50 for one website for a year for Pro. So their pricing is gotten quite expensive. So free isn't always good because there is free, but if you want anything plus, it's like $200 a year. There's no lifetime license. There's nothing like that, you know. So you're going to be paying for a long time if you use a site like Elementor. So just some options. At this time, I thought it would be kind of great just to kind of hear what you guys think. If you have any questions or feedback, I can continue going, or we can go from there. Maybe I put you all to sleep. I don't know.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Jim Weichel. The Gutenberg editor on one of the websites I manage is grayed out.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out why. It just has front end editor, which I can engage, or Gutenberg.
It could be that particular theme or plugin you're using to manage that website isn't compatible or doesn't like the Gutenberg editor, so therefore
Yeah.
it may be stopping it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's probably it, because it comes packaged with Elementor, but I can't seem to get to that either.
Yeah. Interesting. One other thing I want to mention too, as I mentioned in the write-up, I have a little ebook that I wrote called 50 WordPress plugins you should know, and I'm offering that to you guys for free. There's a link. I just posted a link in the chat on Dropbox if you want to download it and take a look at it. Some of the WordPress plugins that I use all the time and recommend. So definitely check that out.
I might make a quick comment or ask it a
Sure.
question. I've never worked with Divi. I've built with Elementor and Beaver Builder.
Yeah.
But with Gutenberg now, with the block editor, is so powerful, especially what's coming in the next. It's going to be drag and drop for the blocks and the patterns now. The issue is it code heavy? Now, I've talked to people that love Divi and they hate Divi, and you've probably talked to the same. And I think if you know those tools, it's a really good thing. And if you're in that environment, I would not, you know, if it works, it wouldn't change. I'm worried about page load speeds, especially for mobile. When you're using these, I call them page builders. I don't know if Divi is really considered a page builder or not, but it's got that kind of code bloat.
A page bloater? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. No. Hey, look.
You know what the point I'm trying to.
I look. I mean, I dabble in SEO. I dabble in page speed. I mean, look. It's. I'll tell you right now. Typically, the theme is not always what slow. This is my personal opinion, Mike. You know, and you're welcome to chew it apart, right? You know, but page builders or themes don't typically slow the site down. It's all the extra plugins you need to do it, right? And one thing I don't like about, you know, Divi, to me, I can build an entire website. I am a Divi guy. I organize a Divi meetup, so I'm gonna be very forthright with that. I try to be very diplomatic in my presentation about all of them, and I use all of them, to be honest with you. I use whatever's in front of me, to be honest with you. I'm not necessarily like completely a Divi guy. I just do it because I already paid for it, and that's what I got, you know. But that being said, it's all the extra plugins you need. And I know I was trying to work in that client website that has Elementor in it, and I needed like 3 or 4 plugins to add to it, right? And it's not like plugins I could have. It's not because I don't know how to add it myself. Like, I do know. I just like to do like big swaths of functionality. You don't really want to hand code all that stuff, right? So it's really the other stuff that you add onto the website that oftentimes slows down the site. Because if you were to just have one page with a Divi builder on it versus one page with Elementor builder, the page speeds will probably be very, very, similar.
So you're basically saying, and I know some people that really love Divi. So I've never used it, so I can't really speak. But you're saying that a lot of that functionality is in Divi, and you don't need those extra plugins.
Yeah,
It's-
animations, all that stuff is all built in. Typically, and of course, as I mentioned, I'm a Divi guy, so I'm going to be a little slanted towards Divi. The guy, but I did see this for myself. The guys who work for Elementor said that they basically take Divi and they copy it. They do whatever functionality Divi creates, Elementor does. So love it or hate it, that's the world we live in, you know.
Okay.
And to me, you can build a pretty slick website just with Divi. But of course, you know, that goes to say any website, whether it's a block editor, Elementor, or Divi, your images are a big portion of speed.
And
you
your
know, so-
hosting.
And hosting, yeah, obviously the cheap hosting is going to contribute to that too. You know, and I'm not, you know, so if you go to a hosting company, they got 50,000 websites on one server, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of page load. But to me, images are the biggest thing. If you take the time to really optimize your images, like in Photoshop, before you upload them, you're going to have a much better page experience than if you just take your images and throw them on there from your camera or whatever. And that to me is one of the biggest things with page speed. Bloat, we could talk all night about bloat, but I think that it's you have to be careful about it. And to me, usually it's the plugins that do it, not so much the themes. You know, but
Well, I know there's people that really like Divi, and I'm not really knocking it. I'm really worried more where we're going to be in 2-3 years with more and more functionality in the core, and you're putting layers, and when you update, that's really more what I'm more worried about. But if I had a website on Divi now, and I've had a couple clients where I'm kind of looking at it, but I wouldn't advise switching, not now. But I don't know that I want to build in those environments. Right, I'm trying to figure out where we're going to be in 2-3 years is all. And I'm sure you're familiar with that question.
That's I ask that to myself all the time. It's actually kind of scary where we're at in some ways. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You know,
Yeah, it's
WordPress is built.
Scary.
It's scary because it's change, and none of us like change, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we spent years learning how to do it one way. Now we got to figure out how to do it another way, right? I'm the first to admit. One thing I know, I used to use a theme called Headway, and Headway sort of basically went out of business. I think you can still buy it, but they had not updated that theme in years, right? I loved it. But I know when I learned that Headway basically was done, I was depressed for a month and a half because I had all that time and money invested into this theme. You know, because money, like you buy the theme, but then you buy all these add-ons for it. You have this like toolbox of plugins that all of a sudden you realize is, you know, worth nothing, you know, and all these websites I had to eventually change too, right? Yeah. But basically, what you're saying though, and I agree, is that like you've got WordPress building the Gutenberg editor, right? And that's becoming more and more powerful every single day, right? Will it compete with Divi? Possibly. You know, we don't know yet. Also, the Gutenberg editor is coming into what they call full site editing, where you're going to be able to do headers and footers and all that stuff inside the Gutenberg editor soon too. That's about here. I mean, that's kind of like right down the pipe. Now, Elementor, again, I'm not an Elementor fanboy, so, and there's people who maybe know better than I do, but I know that they just took a huge amount of venture capital from outside investors, outside of WordPress community investors, and it looks like they're going. This is my personal opinion, but it looks like they're going towards more of a hosted platform, like they're going to compete with a Squarespace, Weebly, or Wix kind of thing. Maybe a more advanced Squarespace, Weebly, or Wix type thing, not necessarily a one-click website type of thing. I just talked to someone who works for Elegant Themes as an organizer. That's of an official group. I get to talk to some of the people who work there, and they said that they are just about to announce some big changes. Don't know what that means, but ultimately, I think that they did say that they are committed to GPL. That Divi is committed to GPL, General Public License, which is good, I think, and that they are doing more to integrate with Divi. Who knows? They could be purchased by Automatic. I have no idea. So we don't know. All I know is we can wake up tomorrow, and that's my guess. I don't. Who knows? We could wake up tomorrow, and there could be something new too. But
Well, there was a big change in their pricing. I saw that last. I don't use it anymore, but I've used it in the past. But thanks, Scott. I appreciate all the information.
Yeah, and thanks for letting me talk. So anyways, it's a wild west as it continues. It's getting a little bit more mature. If you think of WordPress, WordPress is about 15 years old now, which makes it a solid teenager. And at that point, and if you were to think of WordPress as software, but make it like a person, You know, you do a lot of wild things in your teenage years usually, and you're still trying to find who you truly are. And I think that directly relates. I see Nancy, I'm sure you would agree. I know you've been using WordPress for a long time. You know, WordPress is kind of like, who knows who knows what could happen with WordPress. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening with WordPress.com, the automatic company that Matt Mullenweg is the co-founder of WordPress, and basically his company's called Automatic, and they own WordPress.com. They profit off of WordPress.com. And they're doing a lot of things lately too. Like they're doing a lot more of custom stuff, a lot more, they're taking on a lot more territory of what traditionally is WordPress.com stuff. So, and there's a lot of these hosting companies like WP Engine that are buying up these plugins. There's a lot of acquisitions lately. So as much as I love WordPress, it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little scary, but I don't see a better alternative yet either. You know, you know, we'll see. Only time will tell, you know.
Yeah, I've had issues with, you know, where somebody wants a particular look. I know myself, I like to be able to tell whose website it is at the top of the page, and I like some color with it. And very few people, very few themes are doing that these days. And I guess I'm kind of asking, you know, if you've got any good ideas on, you know, how do you find specific themes? I was looking for a group where I know they've had newsletters on their page. They've got some other weird manager, you know, so you want to be able to have, you know, like the last 3 newsletter posts on there. Well, they also sponsor children, so they want to have, you know, some pictures of the children on there too. And so I went looking for WordPress themes that, you know, looked halfway decent to me, where you could have 2 sets of these things going. And I came up with some possibilities. I don't know what they're gonna pick, but I know, you know, my husband's got a WordPress site. The paralegal wanted a new theme. We picked out a new theme. Right now, there's no way to put any color behind the header. And so when you look it up on a mobile device, all you see is the name of the website in black on a white background, which to me is kind of like, what? But, you know, with that particular website, that is a limit, or, you know, with that theme, that is a limitation. So I guess I'm also saying that, you know, the more information you have on what it is they want to do with it, the better off you are when you're trying to locate a theme. You know, and there's all kinds of places of, you know, oh yeah, these are the best WordPress themes. I went through one of them and it was like, well, yeah, I can, you know, and I think the cheapest one was, you know, $19 or something like that. So I guess, and I've worked with some page builders. I'm building my own website. I had worked at a church website. We had a pro page builder. So I pulled off some of the pages because I want to duplicate them for my website. They've been removed from the church's website. And all I've got is gobbledygook because of the page builder. I'm going to have to recreate it. I know I went back and looked at Michelle Schultz had done a thing about the block editing and themes and all that. And she had explained, I hadn't caught it, but they're going to this full page editing thing. Right now, you pick a theme that controls the header and the footer, and your block editing is in the middle. Well, they're going to be going to full page, which means that you can, I guess, lay out your header and your footer, and as well as everything in between. So it's like, so why would you need a theme? So yes, it's a lot of transition right now.
That's a good question. So what's the future of themes? I think that's the, we don't know yet. And I think that, you know, and some of the stuff that you're talking about, Nancy, too, you probably could just do with the 2021 theme. You know, it gives you it gives you kind of a blank canvas. And that's really kind of where we've always been with WordPress, is that you can use a pre-designed theme, or you can use something like Divi, or even now the 2021 theme, you can start with a white piece of paper and start from scratch, you know, and there's benefits and disadvantages to both. I know a lot of times it's hard to sort of tie a client down or even tie my own ideas down when I'm looking at a blank piece of paper. But the good news is that with a pre-done theme, you can say, hey, we like this. Let's just add our content, add content and water into it, so.
I'll share something you might be of
Yeah.
interest. There's actually two 21 themes. There's a T21, which is the beta, which is a part which has the stuff that's coming in the new release, and then there's the 2021 theme. So if some people confuse them, but I think they're calling it 221 as a test one. But in the new release, they're going to have a toggle on the images that will go full length, full width. They toggle in and out. So if you have background colors, I think that's in the main section, but eventually that will be for the entire, the full page editor, which is coming. It's in beta now. You can download the beta plugin. I think it's called Gutenberg Beta. I'm not sure the name of it, but that release is in June is what they're calling.
Yeah, WordPress nightly builds plugin kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Mike. Yeah, Nancy, you probably could start with the beta stuff right now and just start with
Yeah,
it.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Play around. I think the full page editor probably be a year, don't you think? I mean,
Well,
they've
to
been
be actually useful, probably longer than that.
yeah, probably
but-
2 years. Yeah,
but
that's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I get I guess it's the WordPress tavern,
yeah.
emails periodically. And honestly, from the way they had been talking, I thought that the full page editing thing was coming sooner. But, half the time I don't understand what they're talking about. So I was just glad after hearing Michelle, it was like, oh, that's why they said full page editor. Because I was like, well, we edit the full page now. So it's the,
Yeah.
you can lay out your own header as well as your own footer. So, I'll have to look at the beta, but,
Cool.
I have a question.
Yeah, that's cool. Yep.
So I'm actually helping build a site, and in there for the blog page, for some reason there are two things: the header on the top is not visible, and secondly, when you are adding the blogs, only a snippet is showing up and on the WordPress site, and when you click on it shows the link, and you click on the hyperlink, then it shows the entire text. And I read online, they said that on the page itself, there's an excerpt section. You have to post all the content there, so to show it on the main page. So can you highlight some or help me out on that?
Well, that sounds like the post there, the page, the post template was never set up. Or potentially, if you look at on the side, there's attributes, right? So maybe it's on the wrong template for that. Let's see here. Let me try to get an example here.
Might be theme specific too.
Yeah. Do you know what
yes,
theme
that
is?
was what
Yeah,
I was thinking. Yes.
right.
Well, I
So,
have divi theme, but still,
oh, is it divi?
yeah.
Yeah. So one, you should make sure to see if you're using the divi theme, it probably was they just never created the post pages correctly, right? So
Okay.
that could be one thing. The other thing is that sometimes if it's like an older site, this is the excerpt area here.
Mhm.
So you really don't want to post all of your content in the excerpt area. That's not really a best practice. But one, you could either try the default editor or use the divi builder, but make sure that there's nothing here that says it's on like a different template, because that could be another thing too. I know at least with the classic editor, or with like in the olden days, you could select a template and there could be like some leftover templating thing in there that hasn't quite made it over to a newer Gutenberg friendly world kind of thing. So
Okay.
I don't see it on here unless it's hidden
Okay.
somewhere.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So
All right. Thank you.
sure.
I have a question about membership sites.
Sure.
So I manage a couple of genealogy websites, and many genealogy societies have the concept of joint membership, where you and
Okay.
somebody else can join together if you live at the same address.
Mhm.
Is there any membership plugin that supports that? Because you really have to create two members and manage two members, and if they renew, you have to renew both members, and The only way I've done it is do it all myself. I mean, basically, I have to, after the payment is made, I have to identify if it's a joint member and
Yeah,
update both.
I'm not familiar with that particular like easy 1, 2, 3 solution for that. Because I've done my fair share of membership sites, but that's a unique. I've never had that need kind of thing. But that's something that with a little bit of code that you probably could have something that automatically does that, or at least create some type of relationship among users that would be at least make it easier for you to maybe go in there and just click, relate users or something like that too.
Well, yeah, I have it all working, but it was a lot
There
of
you go.
code. I essentially couldn't use their renewal system and all that kind of stuff. I basically wrote my own.
Yeah.
Kind of messy.
Yeah, I know for years I wanted to do something where it was a membership site where it was going to just put one type of user with it, like match one type of user with another type of user. And there was just nothing out there at the time to do that. Now I think there is stuff out there to do that, but I know I was messing around with it for a long time trying to build something like that and then scrapping it. But yeah, interesting need. That's something that I'll have to think about a little bit. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Good luck. If I find something, I'll send it your way. So.
I have another question.
Sure.
Is there, there's this, the popular website Vistaprint where you can go and design your own business cards and stuff. So if I want to enable that kind of capability where add a design tool to a website where you can pick the font and size and do the whole layout, is there a plugin for that, or how do you go about doing that?
There are lots of plugins that do that. I've not used any of them personally, but I have seen them. Like you could check the WordPress plugin repository for something for that. Like, so you can go to wordpress.org and go to plugins and like, just, I don't know. I see like sometimes t-shirt or business card designs.
There's a number of sites like that, like Canva's another one, but wouldn't you just save the image file and then load the image file into the media library? And
well, I thought you wanted to design, have like a design tool on the website.
Oh,
so people could design their own.
He wants to use Vistaprints inside the editor.
I thought that was it. Yeah. You're on mute. Yeah, so I would search here. If not, I'm pretty sure on Code Canyon there's some stuff. I don't really love these plugins. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so great. But there's another like design tools.
There's quite a bit of inline editing options, image editing coming in the core. To complicate it with a plugin is, I don't know.
If it's a WordPress website, then you can, tell it you want to add a plugin and put in some, search criteria, and they'll bring them up in terms of, well, you can tell them where you want it to come from too. But usually in terms of how many users they've got or how many downloads or, is it compatible with your own Word plugin and stuff. So sometimes, that I think that could narrow things down a little bit for you rather than having to go into the big WordPress.org plugins area.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, thanks everyone. I can hang out for a little bit.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
I have a question about search engine optimization. People still talk about being at the top of the first page, but don't different people see different things for the same keyword? How, first of all, is it possible to be like first on page 1 for organic search for everybody around the world? And second of all, where would you look to determine that you're first? Because and also, is there an issue about being incognito versus non-incognito? Does that make a difference? Because I've known people who've bragged about their page being at the top of the first page, but I think that's just because they look at their own page a lot, right?
Yeah, it could be. It also depends on if it's a branded term, right? So if I type in Fronted Social, which is my business, it's going to probably appear first because it's local. There's geographics, demographics. There's a lot of different factors into the algorithms that make that happen. You can use tools like Moz.com or SEO tools to sort of monitor your search presence on particular keywords, but there's a lot of variables that go into that. So you're right. It's not easy to say that you're always going to be number one for this keyword in this location, just because it just depends on
The browser can make a difference.
Never really did. I eventually just
your
kind of
mobile or device
Yeah.
browser. If there's something, let's just say that, in Florida, there's a local donut shop. Maybe let's just say they're looking for something, but there's another type of business that has a similar name, but it's local. The search results may be different in Florida than what it would be here, because they know that this donut shop in Florida may not. I probably don't want that if I'm here because it's in Florida, but there's just a lot of variables that go into that. I dabble in SEO. I think there's people who do it better than I do, for sure. But what I do know is that it's impossible to predict rank in different geographics and different demographics just because of the competitive.
I've heard that how many times your pages are changing also plays into it, that if you keep updating things, then Google puts it more towards the top of your the search.
That can be a factor. It depends on what it is, but yeah.
Right. But if you're just adding blog entries, does that impact the ranking of the other pages that are more static?
It can, but it may
Okay.
not. So there's an answer that,
Depends on your meta tags and your descriptive and your snippet. Are you using some kind of SEO plugin like Yoast or Rank Map or all-in-one?
No. No.
Well, that'll help if you don't really. I mean, I'm not a SEO guy either, but you got Google changing their rankings. It's like what he's saying. You have Sunrise Donuts in Florida. You're going to get hits in Florida. You're not going to get them in Chicago. So anybody comes and says I got you number one all the time, you got to question those, because you can't ever really say for sure, because it just changes for a lot of reasons. But yes, I think what you're saying, if I put more content, more relevant content, but the descriptive way that you define that content, how you link that content, your meta tags, that all enhances you, and your images too. Do the alt images and do the descriptors. So the search engines, the spiders will, because they can't read a picture. You know that, right?
Right.
So you describe it. It helps with your accessibility too, for the accessibility stuff. But those things do help with your ranking. But Google changes their ranking criteria every other month, it seems. So
Right.
Yeah. Also, there's just a lot. One thing I like to say too, there's barely ever really that golden keyword, where there's that, there may be some, like, obviously if I was a dentist in I don't know, Bolingbrook, and I was able to get Bolingbrook dentist and be number one, okay, maybe. But it's very rare that there's a golden keyword for your business. Meaning if you get in this keyword, you're gonna get everything you absolutely want. SEO is like a card deck. You got to play the entire game if you're going to really get the type of results you want to drive. So
most of the little players, you differentiate. You're not going to beat Nike, or you're not going to beat Apple Computers, but Apple, you're Chicago, or there may be some suburb there. I think what he's talking about is you differentiate your search criteria and what you put in the content, so you will come up. If somebody they want Nike shoes, but they want Nike shoes, Chicago, suburb, high school,
the long tail
sports. That's what they do. That's how they get it. You won't come up number one across the universe, but you will maybe in your geographic area.
Right.
I did some work with a website where we just had, I think it was Yoast, and it was the free version. And, there's only certain things you can put in the metadata with them, like it's the page title, and a topic or something else that, you know, if you want to get creative and add more search terms, you got to buy their premium one.
But you can do the snippet, and you can do, yes, they're always trying to upsell. But the one thing about Yoast, they have a lot of free education about that whole story. So if you go into there, they'll let you read a whole bunch of videos and articles about, so you can understand the concept. That's a nice thing about Yoast. One thing about Yoast, though, and this is from, I use Yoast on several sites, but the more experienced people that do them, they say Yoast can be a little bit code heavy. It can especially your administrative panel. It'll slow it down a little bit. That's one wrap on. But
yeah,
I think it's the most popular one.
it can be a little annoying too, just because there's always like warning pop-ups that come up, and he loves to brand himself. But
yeah, and they upsell, man. They always,
but I've used Yoast for years. I mean, I use it on a lot of my websites. And one thing I don't love about plugins like Yoast is that SEO is not a turn it from red to green type scenario. You know, that's not going to really improve your SEO. It may help, but it's not really an SEO strategy. It's just optimizing one page. What I recommend is taking the information you learn from optimizing one page or one post with Yoast and use that as a mindset builder. So when you build more content, you know what you need before you even sit down to write the post or write the page. It's really about building an SEO mindset versus a tool that says you've done this or you rank here, you do that. I don't really invest in a lot of SEO like sort of like monitoring services and stuff like that anymore, because I find them to be overpriced and underperforming kind of thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some SEO people who tell me I'm crazy, but basically to me, it's really more about creating consistent content, creating quality content, and knowing who your audience is. Also, to me, sorry, I'm an ads guy. I like to buy ads because advertisements like Facebook and Twitter and all these other platforms, they give you immediate feedback. SEO could take 6 to 12 months to even get into the game. You know, so you buy a Facebook ad, someone likes my product, I know right there I've got a good product. You know, and I can then invest time into SEO, then invest time into product development and get it out there just based on some initial sort of market fit product testing.
The difference between driving traffic and attracting, like
right,
you attract it over time, but with your ad buys, you're driving traffic, right? I mean,
yeah, and then I know and also if I have a sale, then I can take that money and reinvest it into my business, right? So it's a lot faster. SEO to me is a game that it's hard to play these days. There's just too much competition. As you guys mentioned, Google changes their algorithms likely against you every single week these days. And it's just not like, it's a game that is hard to play. You know, so you can play it, but just don't expect you might get burned, you know, so.
Well, so much of the page is taken up with ads, especially at the top. So you can't be paid. You can't be first unless you paid for it.
You're not first unless you paid for it, right? that's a good point. You know, you're not first, you're last, right? so
if you have quality, relevant content, people will find you, right? It takes time, though. I mean,
the other thing with you know, rich snippets or structured data, or you know, it's like Google's taking a lot of the content that's on your website and just taking it and saying, hey, thanks. Now we're going to put it right into the search results. So people don't even technically have to go to your website if you're creating FAQ or informational content. So again, that's another thing against you, that yes, you could create a blog post with 10 things to do, but the reader sees it in the search index, in the SERP or the search engine results page, and never even lands on your website. And I don't know personally if that counts for a review or not. You know, so you know, do you want to give your content to Google, or do you want to just start getting leads right away? In my opinion, ads is a good place to consider. Ads is a whole nother algorithm, but you know, it's a lot faster and you get a lot better market fit.
Where would you start advertising if it was something sort of consumer oriented?
Well, 2 places. One, I always think of Google ads first, because Google ads are contextual. People who are searching for my products and services typically want what I have to offer. So if my products and services fit into a Google search ad, I would consider Google ads. I would consider that first. Then I would consider platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the social media platforms, because they are more like traditional advertising where they are impression based. So I'm looking at it and I need to show my ad to 50,000 people before I get any type of valuable feedback. And you pay per impression. So you may pay a few pennies per impression, a lot of people are going to see it. It's like buying a billboard on the highway. 50,000 people could drive by that billboard every day, but maybe only 2 people actually need your services, right? Social media advertising is a lot more like that. There's algorithms and there's conversion tracking and there's things that look like audiences that kind of help you kind of reach the right people and targeting by demographics and geographics and stuff like that. But to me, Google Ads is one of the best places to start, because if I have a product that's search friendly, like for example, dentist in Bolingbrook, then people searching for that probably are going to need my products and services. Whereas if I'm a new product where I have to explain to people what I have to offer, like I have to demonstrate what this product, how this product is going to help them, Google Ads probably wouldn't work because people don't know that you exist. So you're going to have to do more broad-based, impression-based marketing, which that's where billboards or Facebook ads, that kind of stuff will come in handy. So
Okay. Thank you.
sure,
May I have a question?
sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a moment here. You're talking about the loading speed, especially for images. And could you just recommend which theme or plugin you would like to use? For example, are you going to use the Astra theme? This is believed to be lighter, easier to go faster, or go with Elementor or Divi, or something like that, to make the speed faster?
Well, first of all, I would have to say you have to test that out to verify which one's faster or not. I use the Divi theme, so that's one I use. Astra, I think, is what's on that website that I was working on. It's the core theme is Astra. I can't say it's any faster than Divi. You know, I didn't do a speed test. So to me, it's a matter of more or less optimizing your images. Make sure, one, that you're using the right format for the need. You know, there's JPEG, PNG, and GIF, right? So make sure you're using the right format based on the type of needs. If it needs to be transparent, make sure it has to be a PNG, like a PNG, right? So you want to use that. Or if it's JPEG, then, you know, also there's new types of image formats too. There's like the I can't think of the name of it. Anyone can help.
.p.
Yeah, right. What is it?
.p, I think it's the Google one.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Then they got
there's
the SVG. Yeah.
yeah, SVGs and WPEG or something like that, where they're a lot faster load time. They're more proprietary. There's a plugin I use called Flying Images it's another plugin. Every time I use a plugin, I ring a bell, right? I'm always using plugins here, but there's a plugin called Flying Images that I recommend because it automatically converts a lot of your images to the newer, faster formats. But again, you gotta to me, it's about you gotta optimize them before you even upload them. That's really because you're gonna spend server time doing it no matter what. So.
Yeah, I think is it Yi? I think he's thinking it's like some themes are better for images, and what I think Scott was saying earlier is no. What you need to do is when you take a picture off of a cell phone, it's really bloated. You got to compress that down and make it efficient so it's not 5 megabytes. So that's what really slows that's going to slow your site down way more than whatever theme you're using. And so what he's saying is optimize these images and there's a bunch of programs out there. But really you just don't need these bloated images that are not sized properly or not the right format that will slow your site down no matter what theme you're using. And I think that's what Scott was saying earlier.
Right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that means just that we have to do first optimize before we load into the theme. Okay.
And then then if you want to get a little more technical, right, then converting them to use that Flying Images and also use a CDN, a content delivery network, to just deliver your images for speed.
Okay.
It also depends how big your website is. If you only have a couple pages, like 5 pages, then you know, sometimes it's like you're on the border if you actually even need all the extra optimization, because sometimes in my opinion, the extra optimization might actually slow down your site sometimes, you know. So if you have just a few images, I wouldn't completely. Also be careful with background images because they can be sometimes really large, right? Usually a background image could be anywhere from 1,200 to 1,000 pixels, and that could be an area where there's a lot of bloat. And 2, screenshots. We all like taking screenshots and then sometimes using them for blog posts and stuff like that. But if you take a screenshot on a really large screen, that could be up to 2,000, 3,000 pixels. And usually you only need about 800 or 900 pixels to show that screenshot, right? So be careful with screenshots too. They can often be bloated in size. So in video,
Okay.
of course, video, I recommend using a video service like a YouTube or Vimeo Pro, that kind of thing to embed video. You never want to embed video or audio files directly from your web server. That's a bandwidth
Right.
hog, and that can cause problems. So.
Right. Okay. Quick, one more question is about the plugin. I know that Jetpack. This plugin has a tile gallery. Looks good, but the funny thing is it is not usable for local host. If I want to just play around in the local host, it doesn't work. We have to use in the online, right? Are there any other plugin similar to this, but we can use it for local hosting?
So that's one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of local host, because one, there's just usually some type of incompatibility issue, and two, generally I have to show the website to a client, and it's just
right.
To do local host, it's like you gotta forget it. So I usually do subdomains, like I'll do like devsite.domainname.com and build it on a subdomain, so it's publicly available and there's no issues with Jetpack. I mean, there's tons of gallery plugins. If you're using it just for the gallery plugin, you could find something else outside of Jetpack, I'm sure.
Okay.
They're in the block editor.
Yeah.
There's a gallery one in there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just the even from the Elementor, they have the block editor, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they have.
There's gallery modules usually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Very good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question about the site builders that
Sure.
you were showing. Once you choose to go down those paths, is there any hope of coming back from it? Is the code that generated by those site builders something that you could go in by hand and fix? And the reason I ask this, because I tried a site builder off of I think it was Earthlink, and you know, the site builder does an okay job at building some basic stuff, but when you realize that you might want to go in and tweak something, I went and looked at the code it generated, and basically they took all of the CSS, all of the JavaScript, and they crammed it all into the HTML file, and then they removed all the spaces. So it was just a miserable pile of spaghetti that you'd spend probably days unraveling before you could even remotely get to the spot where you might want to change a color or something like that. Are these site builders in WordPress similar to that, or?
Well, that's probably due to minification, right? So a lot of times you can use some type of tool to minify your code to kind of create like that jumbled mess, because the browser doesn't need all those spaces. The browser is just looking at code, right? So that could be the product of minification, that kind of thing. It just depends, and I'd have to look at it a little closer. You know, I think that.
I guess my question is, have you looked at the code? Have you actually gone back and looked at the code that these site builders create, or do you just you know, wash your hands of it and say, once I go down that road, I'm going to fix everything through the site builder? And you know, if you get to the point where, I think one of the issues that I ran into is not every object in the site builder had all the controls on it that you would need. So if you wanted to change the background color or something, it may not have always been there. So I thought,
that's typically why I like a divi, is that it usually has 99% of the tools that I would use.
Yeah,
So
I've looked at what I guess that the Pro site builder has put out, and you want to try and locate something because you want to, you know, it's not coming out the way you want. And, you know, they've added tons of variables and stuff, and it's very, very hard just in the HTML in the browser to try and locate where it is. As well as, like I said, I had a couple of pages that were built with the page builder, and I wanted to move them to my own site. And what I got out of it was, you know, all their content variable names or whatever. It was nothing I could use.
yeah. Well, even if you open the page with the developer tools and do an inspection, you can find the code, you can find the location, but you have no hope of understanding what context it's in.
Absolutely, yes.
And you know, and the fact that, I mean, it wasn't that they abandoned CSS, they just embedded, crammed everything into the one file. And so
I don't know. I mean, I use the inspect tool, and I find elements and you know, IDs and classes and stuff like that, and I can go into the
yeah, on a
custom
normal
code
web
and override
page,
it.
but
Yeah.
when they squish it all together like that, it's it just makes everything so much more difficult. So you know, there's probably a tool out there somewhere that will unwind those files or unsquish them, but I haven't checked that out.
Well, this has come up a lot in a lot of these meetups, and you seem like you're code savvy, but for most people, if you start with a page builder, you probably want to stick with it.
You stick with it. That's
When you start going back and forth, you have more code experience, I can tell, and you can probably sort it out. But for the most people that are not code savvy, you know, you get in a code, you get a page builder, and you build it over a year or two. You pretty much need to stay there, because migrating these things off of, and that's just a couple of the challenges we've had, is trying to get them off. They want to go somewhere different. All the hooks and the short code that's in on some of these things, it's not easy, man.
The other thing, the worst thing is that sometimes too, if I should actually, I'm not gonna say I've done this, but you find that you get into a theme that maybe you're not as familiar with, right? But you just want to make a little change. It's a little easier kind of just to go in the inspect tool, find the element, and do an important override, you know, in a CSS, an override the element. But you start doing that, and then someone goes in to use the page builder, and it's like, they're like, how come this isn't working? Because I've gone in there to do an overriding class, right? So yeah, it's really a matter of balancing using the theme builder versus doing overriding stuff too, which is not necessarily a best practice in my opinion. But
yeah, it sounds like that's about what I thought. You just basically make the commitment and then don't turn back. And
that's kind of why we have these like sort of tribes in the WordPress community, you know, and you know, Mike and I have been kind of talking about this. Like sometimes you're like a Genesis or a you know, a different, like once you kind of find the theme that you like, you join that tribe, and that's kind of the one you use. And it's a matter of change is not good, because like you get so used to using one type of theme or one type of situation, and then when you have to change it, that's when either you give up or you buck it up and learn something new, you know. So yeah, and I've been there a couple times now. So yeah, I know.
Okay.
Well, Scott, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all your time. Nice seeing everybody, and hope to see you again.
Okay.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Okay, so
Thanks.
one last ask. Anybody else have questions for our speaker? If not,
I have a question. I'm new to the group, so how do you announce the new meetings? Where should I be on the lookout for the meetings?
well, I can answer that as the moderator here tonight. Basically, if you go to meetup.com and you become a member there, we'll send you when there an email when there's a new scheduled meeting.
Okay.
That's probably the safest thing. Or you could just go to our http www.uniformchicago.org just to see what's on the front page and say, oh, that's different than what I remember seeing last time. That's another way of seeing meetings. We have a list of current and past meetings on both those, on the meetup.com for our group and for on our regular website.
Hey, Scott.
So that would be a way for you to keep in with our group.
I just put the URL in chat for our meetup group. So you can just click there and join our group.
I believe also that there is a link to the MailChimp to join the MailChimp list. Is that correct, Wayne? I think you set that up.
That would be off our regular website, the front page.
I believe it's on the front page still.
So that would be another way of getting things. But if you're just looking for straightforward email, just making sure that you're joined with our group on meetup.com.
We got to install an SSL certificate on your guys' website.
Yeah,
maybe,
we were
maybe that's
already,
a presentation.
already
Yeah,
already got
maybe that's a
told.
presentation.
Right.
Yeah, right. So
We've basically been saying, we're not worried about securing our regular website at the moment, but we'll keep that in mind. Okay. Oh, there we
Let's
go.
put the
Someone
link for our
helped
MailChimp
with
also.
the MailChimp link on our front of our website, regular website. So
I just put it up
thank
on
you very
chat.
much.
Just put it
Thank
in
you.
chat.
There we go. And George is asking, can you share your LinkedIn profile so I can stay connected to y'all? Haven't heard that asked directly before. If somebody wants to include their LinkedIn profile URL on in the chat thing, and people can save a copy of the chat text before they leave, that'll show up for their Zoom client, where your Zoom client will put it. I'm sure if you're willing to help George. There we go. Our speaker just provided his LinkedIn URL. Okay. FYI, last month, our general meeting, we had somebody who was asking for job offers, and Daryl Monk at Actian had some job openings, and he's included the URLs for those in the chat above where Scott, our speaker, added a link for the Divi Chicago meetup group and the Content Academy and our meetup group. So
yeah, if just a real quick self-promotion thing here, guys. If I do the Divi group, if you're interested in learning more about Divi, and thank you for letting me promote that for real quick. And then also I do a lot of YouTube videos. So if you want to check out my channel at YouTube, it's Content Academy. I put a link in the chat.
right,
And that's
and
the last thing
all-
I'll say about myself. So thank you. And
no,
back to
hey,
you.
that's
Back to you,
what
Form. Yeah.
putting things in chat is for people to grab a copy of things, so
Yeah.
they can say, "Hey, did somebody mention something about that?" And if
Yep.
it's in the chat, then somebody could take a copy of that chat text along.
Yeah, and
with them.
that's a cool
So-
thing. You can save the chat file. That's one thing I do too. Yep.
And yes, we will have a copy of this meeting on YouTube someplace. I mentioned that further up. Back in August, we saved one off to our YouTube channel, but our January meeting, we saved it off directly in a separate place on YouTube, but there's a link on our regular website, which we basically talked about, a HTTP uniformchicago.org on our down at the bottom edge of our front page of our regular website there. You can see that, and we're going to probably include a link to this in the same place on our regular website. And we're going to be talking about how to move or copy our January 2021 meeting on YouTube, copy on YouTube to our YouTube channel, our group's YouTube channel. So we'll try and figure that out too. So, but that'd be what we're figuring that out. Okay. And Scott just added another
Sorry, yeah.
group,
Also,
meetup group that he's
if you're into WordPress, this isn't my group, but if you're into WordPress, like definitely, they're all virtual, just like we are right now. So there's the WordPress meetups too. The Chicago WordPress meetup has got a lot. There's one in Naperville too. So so definitely check those out too if you want more WordPress programming.
Yeah. So as another thing, answering an earlier question, what we're going to do when we get to the point where we want to have in-person meetings. Because one of the things that we also used to like was our after the meetings, where we go to a local restaurant and sit there and chat and eat food, drink beer, whatever else. That's something that we would also enjoy doing once we have in-person meetings again. Okay, so if we're done with asking our speaker questions, what we've started doing for our virtual meetings is just having a, wow, we have all these people still on. We got 21 so far still. Wayne, I think we had 30 as a top end count for tonight's meeting. So while we still have people on, if you want to stay on, we basically just find something else to talk about, or you know, something that you've wanted to ask other people about. And hey, you got 19 people left. So if you want to stay on and talk about that, we'll do that for a while. And give you everybody a chance to pull a copy of the chat text. Basically at the bottom, you got the three dots. If you right click it, it comes up with a save chat option. So just FYI, if you're not familiar with saving off the Zoom meeting chat text, that's how you can do it. George Jacobs asking, I assume our speaker, whether you provide some training for WordPress theme development on in-depth.
Yes, I do. Contact me.
Okay. And if anybody else wants to provide training or any link to training that might help George and or anybody else who's interested in that, feel free to include that in there in the chat text.
Yeah. George, also, I mean, be sure to, I mean, Uniform is another great group, but be sure to check out the Divi meetup that we do too. Because I give a lot of free training each month in that group. So check that out.
That is a good point. Meetup is a good place to just do searches and look for what different groups are doing. If there's something that is something where you're saying, I'm interested in whatever, and you do a search for it, especially nowadays where you aren't limited to how far you can travel to get to a group's meeting. If they're online, like they are for last year, that might be another way to find somebody or some group that's maybe not local for you, but might be something you want to check out the next time they have a meeting. Or if that group has recordings. That's another use for the recordings that we're dipping our toes into. So that's something that we found out about as a good thing for our meetings. See, usually at the beginning is when I ask, does anybody have any thing they want to ask other people about, or some excuse me, some set of questions that you might want to take advantage of having a bunch of people that wanted to learn about you know, the topic for tonight, but they might also be interested in other things. So now is the time to ask and say, hey, somebody know anything about a different topic or something, or to somebody else other than Daryl that has job openings, somebody else want to provide information about new job openings that you want to advertise with our meeting tonight.
I got a Raspberry Pi. It's pretty cool.
We've had.
I don't really know how to use it, so it might actually check that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've had previous meetings talking about Raspberry Pi. So
really?
you might want to look at our past meetings on our front page of our uniformchicago.org regular website and see what's on there. Again, at the bottom page of the first, on the front page of our regular website, you might find one of those groups, and we have attachments we have for different information, like, for example, maybe their PowerPoint or something else that they wanted to provide for your example, Scott, the Raspberry Pi topics.
Actually, I'm teaching introducing the Raspberry Pi family of computers at Harper College as a community educational course, which is code words for you don't get any real credits for it.
Oh, is that what they mean? Okay, good to
Yeah,
know.
so it's only three. It's a 3 session, 6 hours. It's very affordable. If you know nothing about Raspberry Pis, it's a great way to get a good
So
dousing
when
of
is
what's
that?
out there. The next one starts March 9th, and that's
Okay.
the last time you can get it for the introductory price, because they're raising the price for the summer session. It'll be offered 2 more times in the summer. In the summer, it'll be in the mornings. March 9th, it's at 7 p.m. for 3 Tuesdays in a row, I think it is.
Okay, and you provided the link for that in the chat text, and also you have an introducing Python programming for makers.
Yes, these are actually. I recommend you take the Raspberry Pi first, and then the Python one after that. This is an introductory course, so if you've been studying Python, you might be bored. But the whole thing is in cooperation with the makerspace at Harper College, and so we're trying to like get people interested in coming. Once people can come back into the makerspace and use the facilities there, they would maybe have some tools to fire up a Raspberry Pi like in a headless condition to run a robot or your version of a Roomba or whatever you want to build. But both these courses are designed to be interactive and hands-on. If you want to do the lab courses for the Raspberry Pi, I'll get you information on where to get stuff and or what to get. I can't tell you where to get it because the college won't let me do that, but I can tell you what to get. So I keep correcting myself there. But for a Raspberry Pi for between 50 and $100, you can get a pretty powerful little computer, and I've been actually using them as workstations. I've got one of my workstations. I got a Raspberry Pi 4 running a 4K monitor, and I've got to be so spoiled with that. I literally have dozens of windows open at the same time.
Yeah, I that's one of the things being online a lot during the pandemic is every once in a while something shows up as, oh yeah, I got a new motherboard that handles runs Pi, Raspberry Pi, and the number of different connections, like you were saying, you could plug in a 4K monitor because it's got a.
It's actually, the Raspberry Pi 4 has actually got 2 video ports you can plug. I've had one running 2 4K monitors at the same time. It just gives you a stiff neck though, because you can't possibly set them up so that you can see both of them at the same time. But it works. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
And I was just thinking we need to come up with a better size comparison than everybody says, well, they're not, they're about the size of a pack of cigarettes. I mean, we need to get rid of that. So maybe it's like a pack of playing cards or something like that. They're tiny little computers. Yeah.
Isn't the next build coming out like inside the keyboard? I saw there was one that they're coming inside.
That was the last one.
Pi 400.
That
Pi
was the
400.
keyboard embedded one, yeah.
Yeah, it's I believe there's either a Pi 4 or a Pi 4 compute module in there. I'm not sure. I haven't got my hands on one. But they also just introduced something called the Raspberry Pi Pico, which is going after the Arduino and ESP embedded market. So that might be a new class that gets added to the makerspace maybe in the fall. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, if you guys are interested, like I said, the March 9th is the last time it will be at that price, which is $40 for 3 sessions, and because they're gonna raise it in the summer. And if you take them back to, take the Pi first and the Python second, you'll be able to do some more of the exercises in the Python programming, because again, it's focused at makers. So we want to teach you how to connect your Python, your Raspberry Pi, the GPIO to the hardware in your project, and then write the Python code to access and control those devices and that sort of thing. So yeah.
There you go. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to share or ask about? We're down to 15, but our usual end time for our longer meetings is 8:30, but then we usually have an extra half hour on these virtual meetings to have our after the meeting thing too. So we're not in a problem of not having more time if people want to use it.
Well, I'd like to just voice a vote for maintaining a hybrid mode if you ever get back to meeting in person.
That's the thing. We figured out in-person meetings and we figured out virtual meetings.
Yeah.
That would be the next thing we try to do, is having combined, so we can do meetings in person and then include people that are not able to get to our in-person location, but still interact. And then we'll have to be figuring that out. Probably starting with our first in-person meeting. We'll try to do something, but we'll probably be learning as we go along. So it probably won't be the first one, but we'll probably be doing better on that as we try more meetings.
Ron, is there a way to set up Raspberry Pis with the Pi camera to do a virtual hybrid meeting kind of thing? Network them together to do some type of like hybrid meeting thing? That'd be cool.
Well, yeah, you can plug in. I forget what it's a camera that's on a parallel strip that plugs into a cam port. I've never done that, but it comes up as a video device, and the Raspberry Pis boot Linux, so it's a full-blown operating system. Like I said, I use them as workstations. A desktop comes up. You can open browsers, editors. You have at your disposal any protocol out there that's ever been invented. You can compile it, either find it or compile it for the Raspberry Pi OS,
Yeah,
which is a Linux.
yeah.
Which is Linux.
Well, that's the popular one, but there's other operating systems.
Yes,
that,
there's quite a few
that
choices.
work
Yes.
for the different levels of Raspberry Pi hardware. Okay, George has another question. Scott, if you could look at the end of the chat, I think he has more questions about training.
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy to talk about that. I'm probably not the best fit for that because I focus more on training the content management system side of WordPress, but there's definitely sites like Code Mentor, or you can hire people to do stuff like that. So to me, that's not the most efficient training for me to do, because I just don't teach it all the time, but definitely something to consider.
There you go. So George, did that help you? I hope so. Okay. So other things, is everybody impatient to get the vaccine for themselves. Before the meeting started, we had Wayne, one of our board members, basically was saying, yeah, he got the second one. He got the second shot. So we were saying, gee, it'd be nice for the people under 65 to start getting those. And so so far we have 2 vaccines that are out there, and hopefully by the end of this week we'll have a third one start being approved for the Johnson & Johnson one.
So I had both. I had both the first and the second, obviously, but I'd have to say that I don't feel anything with the first and the second as far as reactions concerned.
It's good because I've heard that if you had a mild case of it before you took the vaccine, that sometimes that's the reason why people are reacting stronger after getting their first or the second shot of their vaccine. So now, of course, even then, it's more of you had a reaction, not that you had a bad reaction. So I have not heard about any bad reactions yet from anybody.
Oh, I've heard
except
a lot
for
of bad.
those people that had an allergic reaction for some reason, something.
I've heard a lot of bad reactions from people.
Oh yeah? How bad is
Well,
bad though?
They've been on the media quite a bit.
Well, like I said, so at the beginning there was talk about, and it's the reason why they have you sit around for 15 minutes or something like that after you get your shot to make sure that you don't have a reaction that's going to cause problems if you walk out the door and get in a car. So they have you sitting around for 15 minutes after your shot. Is that what they did for you, Wayne?
Yeah.
So, but it's still definitely much better to get at least one shot to not get a bad reaction to the virus if you do get the virus still. But definitely getting the second shot for your Pfizer vaccine first shot or Moderna first shot. So that's still the correct approach, is to get that second shot, and you should be getting that scheduled at your first shot. So hopefully it will, Illinois at least, if we have other people in other states that want to pass along information about how the other states are handling the vaccinations, please, this is a good time to do it. But Illinois is supposed to be starting to get more shots of the vaccine available, but apparently this week at least, they're holding back first shots to make sure that they have enough for the people that are scheduled for a second shot. So, but hopefully we're supposed to be getting more shots of the vaccine available for first shots again next week. But we'll see. And that's like I said, that's Illinois. So other states are having their own issues.
Yeah, someone told me to check out the ZocDoc site, ZocDoc.com/vaccine. It lets you find appointments and stuff like that across state borders and stuff like that. So might want to check it out.
I think ZocDoc is one of those scheduling companies for regular doctor appointments.
It's amazing how much disinformation about these vaccines is being floated around out there. I mean, and you still get idiots who think the whole thing is a hoax. 500,000
I don't know
people
who
are dead.
they're
500,000
are they
people
off
are
in the
dead,
middle
but
of
it's
the
a
desert
hoax.
someplace or something like that, or
Well, sadly,
the entire state
I
of
know a
Indiana,
few. Well, yeah, people from northern Michigan.
well, so basically they don't have enough people at hospitals or visiting
Population
hospitals,
density is lower, but I mean, there was a town in South Dakota where they were all up in arms about wearing masks and doing the protocols, and that town got hit so bad that I think they lost half their population. because they weren't following the protocols. They all infected each other, and there was
They all
only
had
one.
bad reactions.
They all died. Half the
That would
population.
be a bad reaction.
Bad reaction. Yeah, half the population died, and there was only one. It was a small town in the middle of Cornfield County somewhere, South Dakota, and they only had one medical facility. And towards the end of it, there was only one nurse practitioner that was healthy enough to practice medicine. And I mean, a lot of the people in the town died, but a lot more of them got sick and were out of commission for a while. But do you think it would change some of those minds? I just got the flu.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if there's still somebody in that town that basically is saying that's a hoax,
but
that's one thing. But if
there
all
is
they were
though, that's
saying
the
was
sad
themselves,
thing. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
And then you got these idiots who are claiming that the modified RNA vaccines, which are the Pfizer and the Moderna, never leave your body. I mean, they have no comprehension of how the thing works. One of the reasons they have to be refrigerated so cold is that those strands of modified RNA are very unstable at body temperature. They only last in your body long enough to invoke a response, and then they just disintegrate. They chemically fall apart. But there's people going around telling them that it's going to continuously modify your genes for the rest of your life. It's like, where are you getting this crap from?
Yeah. Jim Harvey just passed along another URL for something he's calling, it looks like a Facebook group for Chicago Vaccine Group.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thing to pick up from the chat text if you want to take something along with you.
Hopefully not the virus, right?
Well, like I said, that's the one thing about doing virtual is that if you didn't come in with the vaccine, the virus, you're not leaving with the virus.
Right.
Yep.
Well, hey guys, it's been fun. Thanks again for having me talk to your group. I always I like to participate in this group as much as I can. I love the stuff that you guys talk about, and yeah, I look forward to sharing a beer with you guys in the future when it's safe to do so.
Yep. Okay.
So,
if you come up with another topic, it doesn't have to. I probably won't have to be next February. Let us know.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of live streaming. I know the one gentleman who I think has since passed away did a topic on live streaming at the beginning of the pandemic, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Lots of good points. But yeah, I've been doing lots of live streaming. I'd be happy to share some stuff on that if anyone.
Because that's one thing that we're looking to do. So Ron, if there's something that you would like to put up as a topic as a speaker, because that's one thing we're looking for is people that know how to do presentations. So if you're doing classes at the community college, sounds like you've gotten over the hump of, how do I do this?
Yeah, if anybody's got a topic, I do have a number of lightning talks for short talk sessions on various aspects of Unix and Linux. I mean, I've been at this stuff for many decades, so I probably know a little bit about everything. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. So if you do it, basically contact our group at info@uniformchicago.org. I'm including that email address in the chat text.
Yeah. I did I haven't done it in a while, but I did a talk on the cron, which is still functioning. It's called the cron and beyond, implementing some techniques to leverage the cron, especially in the environment where you might have multiple containers or multiple virtual machines running on the same hardware.
But like I said, you just
stuff like that.
if you have a topic, if you look on our
I'll check that
websites
out, yeah,
for
okay.
our description, we have an abstract description for what kind of thing it's going to be talked about. So if you want to put together something like that and send it to info@uniformchicago.org, or if you have one of our board members' email addresses, you can send it directly like that. So,
I'll check that out. I'll let you know.
well, might be good for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys.
All right. Take care, Ron.
You too.
Bye now, y'all.
Good night, everybody.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you again.
Thanks again to Scott for the presentation.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, so we're down to 9. Hey, CL, I don't think I heard anything from you. If talking as one of our long-term attendees.
Yeah, no, I I don't have anything to add or anything.
But it's good to see you on one of our meetings here. So just wanted to reach out and say, hope everything's going well for you.
Yes, everything's fine. Good to see everybody.
Okay, so we're down to 6. Is anybody else? I think this is pretty, we made an after meeting pretty good here. So,
I'm waiting for the carrot cake.
Well, as soon as we can have our our meeting in person, we can have our after the meeting back at one of the local restaurants that would hopefully be open by then too. Because trying to eat with a mask on is not something that works very well for eating inside nowadays. So. All right, so next week is our next board meeting on Tuesday at 6:30. I'll be sending out a
invite,
an agenda for the